I am a facial coder, which means that for the last 20 years, I have studied people's faces to understand how they are feeling about everything from advertising to product packaging to retail experiences, hiring situations, company morale, and so forth. The person who really brought us emotional intelligence was none other than Charles Darwin. Darwin was the first scientist to take emotions seriously. Darwin said to himself, if emotions didn't matter to us, they would have been weaned out of us over the course of evolution. But emotions do matter. They help us survive, and if we do well as a company, ideally being emotionally intelligent means we can evolve as a company and get better at the customer experience. Now, when you look at this list, which by the way leaves out two other emotions, surprise and contempt, you're going to say, oh, there are 7 core emotions and there's only one positive emotion, which is joy, the upscale version of happiness. And that is true, because bad news is something people hear more loudly than good news, unfortunately, because it goes back to survival. So what I want to do in my speech today is talk about how you can overcome those bad situations, how you can make them better. Yes, I would like to drive us towards happiness, but my argument is going to be that the only way to get there is to acknowledge that there are problems. If you understand the problems, solve the problems, get more literate about what's behind the problems, you have a far better chance of coming out well than just imagining that everything is a smiley face in life, because it's just not very realistic. Speaking of realistic, so I have, for instance, used facial coding on speed dating. We have 100% accuracy whether the man and the woman wants a second conversation with the other party. 100%, because we all know in a dating situation, a lot of real things don't get said, but they get shown on the face because the face is the only place in the body where the muscles attach right to the skin. It is quick, real-time, unfiltered data. So speed dating is great, but if I'm going to talk about problems, you're not yet in a relationship, and that's when both the nice things and the not so nice things may emerge. So I'm thinking of a wonderful quote from Garrison Keillor, who said, God invented marriage so we wouldn't have to fight with strangers. So there are a lot of emotions that go on in a relationship. I'm only going to have time in my half hour to get around to 3 of them. I'm going to talk about anger, fear, and happiness. Now, there's a couple of qualities I want to introduce about emotions right away. One is that emotions are turbulent. They get our attention. They make us focus. If you do customer service well, you will have their attention because there's a problem. And the question is, can you then create a solution and transfer and maintain that attention over into the solution? If you can do that, that's golden. As Lou Carbone said this morning, there is economic value in emotions, particularly emotions that come out well, ultimately, for the company. So that's one thing. The other thing is that emotions are really contagious. We might think we're in B2C. I would say we're actually in B2P, people. If you think of them as people, not consumers, it's already a lot better. What you have here is people to people. That's what you're really talking about in business. And nothing creates more emotion than interfacing with another person in terms of the emotional charge that is going on. So that's where I want to go. So the first place I'm going to go to is anger. Because having done this for 20 years, having all sorts of norms across all sorts of touch points, I can tell you that anger is an emotion you will not be able to evade. About 30% of our emoting, on average, will involve anger. It will be higher or lower. There's a book that's being available here where I've looked at 173 celebrities. The highest one for anger was Eminem, the rapper. About 80% of his emoting is anger. So that's a little high. But for all of us, anger is almost always in play to one degree or another. So let's talk about anger and what causes anger.
When are you gonna get out of here?
In a while. I gotta get back.
I love you, Mama!
I love you too, baby!
So anger as an emotion, because I think a lot of us are not as emotionally literate as we could be, even in the customer experience realm. You might remember Bruce last night. For those of you who were here, Bruce Timken talked about emotional illiteracy is one of the top 5 reasons why we fail to be empathetic with our customers. So if we get into the emotions, we actually have to talk about what they mean and what triggers them. And what essentially we're talking about with anger is that I want control and I want to make progress. So if you feel trapped cleaning your bathroom, that is not a sense of progress, especially if you get to do that every week over and over to try to keep your house nice and clean. We want control and we want to make progress in life.